In this video, we're going to dial in the Archon amp model in the Atomic Amplifier. This one is based on the PRS Archon amp. Let's dial it up. At the moment, I'm playing my PRS SC245. Here is the stock sound of the bridge pickup, DI. Okay, let's dial up the amps. So we'll go with the Archon. And at the moment, I have the matching cabinet. These are the stock settings. Okay, the first thing that I like to do with this is I'm going to use one of my own IRs. This is an impulse that I made. I've shared it previously, but I will put up a download link to it. The only thing with this impulse, when I load into the amplifier for whatever reason, the level is really low, so you probably have to give it like 15 or 16 dB of boost. I would guess this is because the program I use to make it doesn't normalize the IRs. They work fine in my Axe effects, but for whatever reason, when I bump them in here, the level's a bit low. Anyway, this is what it sounds like with the stock settings on the amp and this impulse. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do in the cab block is bring this high cut down. I'll bring it down to about 8K to start with to take out some of that fizz. This is what it sounds like. Alrighty, I'll leave the cabinet block as it is. We'll go and actually just fiddle with the amp knobs for now. So whenever I dial in an amp, this is basically how I do it. I'll go extreme with the control. So I'll leave the gain and the master where they are. And I'm just going to play around with each control and see how much of a sweep it's got. So you can hear the treble, the presence, and the mid-range are interacting, basically to sort of change the character a lot. I found that the bass just kind of muddies things up, so I like it quite low on this particular amp. The other control, which is really important with any amplifier or amp modeling device, is the master volume. So what I'm going to do with this one is to sort of tighten things up and take a bit of that woof out. I'm going to lower the master. I'll bring it down to 3, and to compensate, I'll turn the level up. think that's a pretty good starting point. Hopefully that reveals some of the character that's actually going on with the amp there. You can hear that it's sort of got a little bit of the like rectifier DNA in the low end, or it is really, really woofy with the bass up too high. So we'll find a way to tame that in a second. But then there's this really interesting like mid-range, high mid-range kind of sizzle, which is a little bit tricky to dial out. I'm still on the fence about whether I like more mids or more presence in there. So I'll leave it there for now. The first thing that I'm going to do is with one of these parametric EQ blocks, set this to a high pass filter, and I will set the frequency to 0.1K or 100 Hertz. And let's have a listen to what that does, because it's going to take out some more of that low end woof that I don't like too much at the moment. That's pretty cool. I could almost compensate by turning the bass up a little bit now, which gives us this. So it's cool. There's this sort of like, almost sounds like I've kind of got a wah cocked in there at the moment, which is, yeah, it's got its own character going on. Now, to tame the front end, we can do two things in the amplifier. One, we can use this pre-EQ and set it to about 250 Hertz. And essentially all this guy is going to do, I'm just going to use the low cut. So these controls aren't doing anything, but it is going to shave off a whole bunch of bass going into the amp. So this is kind of the idea. I know Friedman amplifiers do this, where they cut bass before gain to keep the gain really clear sounding, and they boost it after the gain stage. The Messer Mark series is another amplifier in the real world that does this, where the bass control is before the gain. So you turn the bass down, really cleans your gain structure up, and then afterwards you boost gain with the graphic. In this case, if I engage this block with the Archon, it does this. And again, I would probably boost the bass from here, like so. So that's pretty cool. Another thing that we can do, I'll turn the bass back down and turn this off, is use a pre-boost. I really just like the Tube Screamer, drive on 0, level all the way up. And I normally like the tone at about 3 o'clock. This is what we get from there. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to kick the noise gate on as well, just to tame some of the sizzle. And that feels really, really good to play with at the moment. I might just turn the level down a little bit to tame some of the gain. We get this. Okay, one last thing I will do. I know this particular impulse, from using it before, has a couple of nasty spikes at about 3.3K. So what I'm going to do is use a, where are we? I'm going to use a peaking parametric, and I'll turn the Q all the way up, and I'll just bring a little bit of level down on that guy. And I'll do the same thing at basically somewhere around, I think it's about 5.3 on this one, and do the same thing. Set it to peaking and just pull a little bit out. So these are just surgical cuts. I'll turn them off and then I'll turn them on so we can have a listen. and you may not notice a difference at all. This is just designed to pull out a couple of really harsh frequencies that when we start playing at really high volumes are going to basically hurt your ears. So we pull those guys out and it doesn't affect the overall tone too much. I think for a sort of like really tight, modern, chunky, hard rock metal kind of sound, this is really cool. Whenever I think of the Archon, I always think of that video PRS did, like with Mark Tremonti and a couple of other guys just jamming on it. And it sort of had this character that you can get by turning the mids all the way up if you're soloing. So you get this. But if you want to chunk, you can bring the mids. I mean, the mids all the way out sounds like this. So you can hear not much happens from like 0 to 5, but it's only around sort of just before 5 you actually get some character out of the mid-range there. So I'm pretty happy with this. This is a really fun sound to play some riffs with, especially if you like the drop C palm muted kind of thing. And the last thing that I would do if I wanted to play some solo stuff, I would add a compressor to the front of this, which may seem odd, but essentially I'm just going to use this as a gain boost. So I set the ratio to about 1.5 and I'll turn the level up, and this is what it does. And then, of course, I'll add some delay. The way I like to dial in the delay on the amplifier is to use the digital type and then bring the high cut right down somewhere to around 3.5K. That's pretty cool. And then the nice thing with this is we actually have up to 4 delay lines. I'm just going to use one here, so I will leave all of these guys off with the mix control. I'll just pan it down the center and we'll set the tempo to be a dotted eighth. We get this. I'll let you hear it with the high cut off, basically. So I really like the way that sounds. And then what I would do is in this advanced section, I basically add a little bit of this flutter control. Well, a little bit, a lot. And another thing I can use is the ducking control. I might add, say, 6 or take out 6 dB of ducking, and I'll turn the overall level up. So what this is going to do is that when I'm playing, turn the delay down, and then when I stop playing, it will turn the delay up. So with really extreme settings, it gives you an idea. There you go. But yeah, I only need about 6 dB or something like that, just so that the delay is louder in the gaps. So there you go. For the main rhythm sound, it's this. man, I like that. I'm going to go and play a bunch of guitar with this particular sound. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you picked up some handy tips and tricks, and I will see you all around real soon. Stay frosty.